Hi, and welcome to this In Conversation With. I'm Richard Lane, co-founder and CEO of Durham Lane, Demand Generation Specialists. I'm joined today by Kevin Beales from Refract. So, Kevin, welcome to the conversation. Do you want to give a quick intro?
Thanks, Rich. Yeah, good to be here. My name's Kevin. I'm the CEO and founder of a company called Refract. We help improve sales conversations and their outcomes. We capture and analyze sales calls, demos, and meetings, profile the key moments and what top performers do differently in their conversations.
Excellent. Thanks, Kevin. Probably just as a disclaimer, we're a customer of Refract, we're a partner of Refract, and we're good friends. So that's probably getting all the disclaimers out there top front and early. So, well, look, we just thought we would get on the session together and just really talk about these strange times we're in, which I know is the top of everyone's agenda. But I thought we would try and bring some business context to what's happening in the world and think really about how how it's affecting our businesses and what opportunities we see. Because I guess as salespeople, then we should be always looking for opportunity. And we talk at Durham Lane a lot about qualification and the compelling event, and COVID-19, the dreaded C word, is probably one of the biggest compelling events in any of our lifetimes. So maybe just to get us started, just maybe could you just talk us through the transition to going remote? Was it a transition for you? How painful? What happened?
Yeah, it's definitely not as painful as perhaps for some, or as it could have been. We embrace remote anyway. A number of our team will work frequently from home, so that's something that is fairly normal. But going fully remote still had just a few tweaks and challenges that we didn't necessarily foresee. We went remote quite earlier than most businesses, so I think it's the right thing to do. We'd asked everyone, do they have everything personally to be able to go remote a few days before we made the decision, and the answer was yes. But of course, then when you actually get down to the practicalities of it, there's people's Wi-Fi's that aren't quite as good. People didn't have a comfy chair at home and had to come back into the office and get their office chair, and people wanting extra monitors, all the things that you don't necessarily consider when someone just asks you, can you work from home? And then there's even, just some of the logistics, things like the post, once no one's in the office, then things like the post. Then we realized that there was milk and fruit still being delivered to the office, and we got in trouble by our tenants for having milk and fruit that no one was going to sort out and potentially going to be there for months. So those are the things you don't necessarily think of that are a bit of a challenge.
Yeah, absolutely. We're quite a different business, as you know. So the main part of us as being demand generation specialists is about having people together. It's about atmosphere. We talk about one of our USPs is all being under the same roof, which obviously has led to
a big roof.
I put a post out on LinkedIn a few days ago. I think we and the whole team have done amazingly in terms of that transition out of the office. And I think we're finding it sort of quite freeing in some ways. So I do think that there's a real opportunity for us, having now started to embrace the remote working, to then think about how does that work ongoing once we all get back to what might be a new normality in the future. So really, and we had a similar thing, people coming in getting desks. We actually phased our 70 plus staff out in over a sort of week or so process, and we actually made the decision last Monday as a leadership team. We thought, right, we are going to close the office now. We had a few people still in, and so we took that call, which actually was led by the leadership team, which was great. And then that evening we went into total lockdown, so it was good timing in that respect. So you're a few weeks into this then. How are you finding how are you and the business finding life as working remotely full time, and what sort of I guess what sort of opportunities have you found that have come about?
Yeah, so there's definitely been pros and cons. I think we've been fully productive, and that's obviously key. We've arguably been, as we might come on to, more successful during this period in selling and in getting hold of people and creating opportunities. But there's definitely challenges and personal challenges. It's obviously hard for everyone to just transition to being in the same four walls. So how we keep everyone together and keep that that atmosphere and that culture that obviously we all work so hard to create becomes a bit more difficult when everyone's remote. So we've been really trying to embrace that. We spend a lot of time on obviously on Zoom calls, but we actually do a lot of activities together. So for example, we have our hardcore prospecting hours. We all jump on Zoom. We're all on silent whilst we're all prospecting, and then periodically we're sharing how we're all going. We gamify some of those things. We've had after dinner beers. All jump on Zoom and grab a drink and just not obviously talk about work, but talk about everything else. But
does that work? Because I was thinking about Zoom beers, and I think we're all. I think one outcome of this is we're all becoming better with video conferencing, because I sort of still laugh at the amount of trouble we often have getting these things started, but it's becoming more natural. But I still wonder how a Zoom beer session goes in terms of people all talking at the same time or not.
No, so the last one we had about 25 people on the call. Obviously, had everyone's faces up on the screen, and it worked well. I think laying down the rule that no one is working, right? Working and having a couple, carry on working and having a couple of drinks maybe doesn't work, and talking about work probably doesn't work either. I think everyone needs that release. And I think that maybe brings on, this is one of the things that I've personally found more challenging, and I'm sure a lot of other people as well, is that it's hard to switch off. Like you're just in a room, and then you walk out that room, and your family are there, and you jump into the dinner table, and then you want to go back. Your computer's still open, and you go back and just check your emails, and it's hard to create that distance that we normally have when we're commuting, and we take ourselves out of Kevin the work person and become Kevin the member of the family. That I've personally found that more difficult.
Yeah.
And I'm sure, I don't know if you've had similar experiences, Rich.
Yeah, so I think we were talking earlier about Teams, and I've wanted to implement Teams or some sort of other than email communication across the business for many years, and frankly I've never really achieved it. And then I think within about 2 hours we'd really implemented Teams well, because it's being driven by everybody else rather than me saying we want to do this thing. So that's gone really well. But what I found is that even my kids are now saying, can you turn your phone off? It ping 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 me. I'm part of all these different chats and channels, and so that has been a bit of a, probably to your point, that you step away from the makeshift office or the desk you have in somewhere in the house, and you're even closer to work than normal. And I think we all feel like we're very connected through our phones, but I think we've become even more connected through this time, because it's been heightened, hasn't it, in terms of sort of the need to be available and connect.
Yeah, although on the flip side, one of the things that I've really found encouraging is that it has humanized us all. The child in the background, the dog running around behind us. I was on a board meeting yesterday, and someone's carrying around their baby. There's dogs barking in the background. It kind of humanizes us all, and everyone's embraced, and that's become normal, hasn't it? If someone's
we're sitting here in our hoodies and our base layers. I was on a call this morning with one of the guys, and his daughter was watching Frozen 2, and we were just talking about some content we were producing, and it has it has humanized it. I think that's right. I think it's but the same way it's brought it much closer in. Well, it's brought it into the home, hasn't it? Let's face it. That's where we all are. So
yeah. And and even when we've been having like beers of an evening, and you see people's partners or children that behind, some of them have come and joined the conversation for a moment, and you just don't get to see as much as you should that part of everyone's life that you work with, and it's good that's now been embraced.
Yeah, good. So just maybe turn our attention to business continuity and, dare I say, business growth. How have your have you had any negative impact from what's been going on? Have you had customers stop? Have you had customers pause? Have you had customers accelerate or want to do more? What's the outlook? Everything's going.
There's been two very distinct sides of the coin for us. I think, as with everyone else, we have had deals that have just been about to be signed, that have been paused, and the can kicked down the road. We have had some clients that have either paused or have ended their commitment to Refract, particularly and you obviously really feel for these people that are selling into hospitality, people who are selling into the event space. That's clearly a really tough gig right now, and you can see why everyone's going to have to batten down the hatches in those industries. On the flip side, we've seen a real surge both in existing customers and new customers in being able to capture and record distance and remote conversations from any device, being able to have that distance coaching. I think coaching has become even more key when people are out of sight, out of mind. How do you ensure that you know what's happening, that you know the voice of customers and prospects, but you're also having that opportunity, never sitting alongside someone, to be able to coach and give feedback, to be able to improve performance, to be able to share best practice. No one's bouncing off peers anymore. Everyone's just in a room all by themselves, in blissful ignorance. So coaching has definitely become far more key. That's been a positive for us, as has, I guess, the shift towards inside sales. People aren't going to hit their revenues out of events and networking and face-to-face right now. So inside sales has become more key, and obviously for your business, I'm sure, as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we've been affected by clients whose clients live in some of those really affected sectors. So we've had nothing cancelled, but we've had quite a lot of clients pause their work with us, and the challenge with that is no one quite knows when we're going to come out of this. So it feels like an indefinite pause right now. But we're seeing, one thing we've seen is activity has increased from our teams. We're creating a similar level of opportunity. So we're still connecting with people. We're still having great conversations, and we're still creating results for our customers. So I think it depends on where you're selling into and the type of people you're trying to reach to some degree. We're using Refract more than ever. So we've always, we've used. we've been a Refract customer for a long time, and we've always used it. But actually, I saw something on the chat channel yesterday where one of our guys had finished a coaching session. He'd said it had been a brilliant call, had all the hallmarks of a great call, and so I tapped a note back saying, let's get it shared. Let's build a library of positive content. And again, it provides that momentum maybe to try and get some of those things that we wanted to do anyway, but try and get them into process.
Absolutely. And even when you think about what you would have in the office, you've just come off a great call, really successful outcome. You get that someone's heard you, said that you sounded brilliant on that call. I love the way you said that. You get that praise, you get that feedback. All of a sudden, you're in a room by yourself, and you lose all of that. So, being able to, have that ability to share and coach becomes really critical.
Yeah.
We've definitely. Sorry, we've definitely seen it as well that people are more accessible. That that as people who are inevitably spending less time in meetings, less time traveling, conferences, whatever it might be, that people are more accessible, but there is more noise. There is more people trying to get hold of them, and the plug that I would give that obviously resonates with both of us is the phone. The phone still cuts through the noise. Most of the noise is still email, maybe social and LinkedIn as well. If you being able to use the phone as the tool of choice right now, particularly with careful messaging, with empathy, with being able to help the people that you can help most right now, we're about 20% up on the amount of opportunities that we would normally create, and that's by taking a more phone first approach.
Yeah, it's really interesting, isn't it? Because I read something yesterday saying all the spend seems to be being diverted into LinkedIn, pay-per-click, and people still have that concern over the phone. So it's our business. So obviously I'm going to be I'm always a fan of the phone, but at the same time you have to um, you have to have the right messaging. You have to be focused in, with the right business fit, business value. So it comes back to our first mantra. But if you get that right, I think we're seeing more connections. We're seeing opportunities being created. I guess what will be interesting is to see how many of that new opportunity being created, how much of it then lands through and turns into business. Because the other thing I'm seeing at the moment is people are just saying, well, we're not spending. So that will loosen up. But right now, I think the pendulum has totally swung the other way.
Definitely, yeah. And I mean, I've seen some messages and posts out there saying, that this is a really inconsiderate time to be cold calling. This is a really bad time to be doing that. But it comes back to if you're contacting people because and you recognise that it's a well-considered outreach, you believe that you can help and solve problems and add value, and you can do this in an empathetic way of the realities of what's going on around us, the problems that people have today, then this is a great thing. We're not calling to get people to do something that they don't want to do. We're trying to cold call people, introduce ourselves to people so that we can help solve the problems that are keeping them up at night, and help them address some of those challenges and move forward. And I think that's where the reputation of calling and cold calling has a really bad rep. But the reality of when it's done and when it's done well, and that's obviously the key, with that empathy and with that value and with that consideration, it's very different to the reputation sometimes it has.
Yeah, it's really interesting because actually I think back to when I first put Selling at a High Level together, 2009, just coming out of the last economic crisis, and everything you've said there still exists. So there's always a need for people to be helping people discover the right products at the right time to solve their business problems. And if you do it the right way, then it's a value adding service. If you do it the wrong way, then it's noise and it's inconsiderate. So nothing's really changed. I think the compelling event has just been heightened with this the current situation we find ourselves in. So yeah, still very aligned. So just sort of shift a little bit. I guess two things before we finish. One, are there any particular tools that you think are worth giving a shout out in terms of what's helped you as an organization to communicate really well in this slightly surreal period? And then secondly, if we fast forward 12 months, it'd be good to get some thoughts around what you think, where you think you might be because of what's happening.
Yeah. So we use, as most people do, like very prolifically, the Zooms, the Slacks, and those tools. The tool that we have started using, and I'll give a shout out to, it's free for the next 3 months as a result of what's happening at the moment, is a tool called Tandem, tandem.chat. It kind of tries to replicate being in the office, being able to tap someone on the shoulder, just ask them a quick question, be able to jump in a room and have a quick discussion with three or four people. And rather than actually have to create a meeting and send a link round, just makes it far easier to do that. As well as, we for example have a room where everyone can jump in at lunchtime, not talk about work, but all just chat to each other whilst whilst we're having a break. So I'd definitely give a shout out to that. Okay. In terms of the next 12 months, I think first of all, as anyone would say, there's so much uncertainty in the short term, but I think once you start to look over a longer period of time, like 12 months, the shift to remote is not going to fully reverse. Everyone's embracing this. They're going to embrace it for a period of time. We were already having people saying, well, do we ever want to go back to the office? Yeah. Kind of like, it's, that the shift to remote is, and our ability to be able to work remote and be comfortable working remote is definitely not going to fully reverse. And I think the same as inside sales as well. Everyone, if you relied on face-to-face sales, if you relied on events, or these were significant parts of how you created your revenue, then you're changing your behaviours now, and because you have to make them work, that they'll be working again over a period of time, and that's not going to fully reverse itself. That shift towards inside sales, which has been going on anyway for a number of years, that shift, isn't something that's happening because of this, but it's obviously accelerated. It's not going to fully swing back, and I think we'll all learn that we can close more deals and actually create the right relationships that we need to establish and keep really successful partnerships without having to invest lots of time, money, and effort on traveling all the time. Whilst obviously it's great to have that physical connection, I think we'll realize that we can create far more virtually than we considered. So those pendulums aren't going to swing fully back.
Yeah, totally. It's sort of the accelerant, isn't it? That's what's happening. A lot of those, as you say, these shifts we're seeing were happening anyway, but they're just being hyper accelerated, is the way I sort of explain it. So
absolutely, yeah.
Okay, well, look, Kev, it's been really good to speak to you. Thanks for sharing your thoughts and a bit of time with me.
Thanks for the opportunity.
Beautiful soundproofed isolation. Looking at your headphones.
That's to keep the noise of the children just slightly diluted while you're on the call.
So anyway, look, really appreciate it, and good to speak to you as always. And I'll see you soon. So thanks for anyone that's watched this. Appreciate it. If you want to know more about Kevin and Refract, you can go to refract.ai. Is that right? Refract.ai for more information on their sales coaching platform. And if you would like some more information on Durham Lane, then it's durhamlane.com. So here to help, and thanks, Kevin. I'll see you soon. Cheers.
Yep, stay safe. Wash your hands. Cheers.